The day has finally come. Not only is My Hero Academia going out with a big swing with its final season, but they brought back porno graffiti, which feels almost illegal to say on YouTube, to do the final opening for the My Hero Academia anime called the REVO. I still can't believe we are in the final stretch of the series being over. So let's break down the entire opening with all of the little Easter eggs and callbacks to the entire series to celebrate the final season of My Hero Academia. So let's hype this video up. Also, there will be some spoilers, but I'll be sure to let everyone know when I get to them. Now, of course, porno graffiti has made their return to My Hero Academia after doing the series' iconic first ever opening called The Day. The Day symbolizing Deku's journey from being a quirkless loser to being given the chance to live his dream of becoming a hero, as Deku is seen reaching towards the light made by All Might, who made his dream become a reality, taking his first steps down the path of heroism to become the next symbol. Hence why the lyrics "The Day Has Come" signify the beginning of his journey. The REVO calls back to this iconic opening and lyric in so many ways, since Deku is at the climax of his journey, face to face with his arch enemy and the world's most dangerous villain. The day has truly come for him to say "I am here," just like All Might did before him. As in the beginning of the opening, it begins with Armored All Might, the previous symbol of peace behind Deku, showing us that torch having been passed on to Deku and the next generation of heroes. The main theme we see across the entire opening is not only that transition from one generation to another, similar to The Day, except this time that transition is now complete, but we also see the main theme of hope, as when the camera rotates around with Deku now taking the foreground of the scene, we see a little boy holding his hands together wanting All Might to win the fight against All For One, which is shown in the first episode of the final season. Koda takes Aries' hand to soothe her and to make her believe in the heroes as she's crying witnessing her heroes fight the war, and a woman watching the war live also holds her hands together praying for the heroes to come out on top. The song itself highlights the mistakes he's made along the way as well as the friends he's come to know and love, giving us little glimpses of Deku's journey throughout the series in comic panels, as Shigaraki gets his own little panel showing his journey throughout the series, since My Hero Academia is as much Shigaraki's story as it is Deku's. All For One and Shigaraki stand on top of a building, the opposite of Deku and All Might in the beginning of the opening, with All For One taking the foreground of the shot instead of Shigaraki. This is obviously because All For One's god complex lets him see himself as the main character, since he always refers to other people as extras, very similar to Bakugo. The camera does move to Shigaraki with a less determined look compared to All For One, depressed in a way because a lot of what he is doing is the result of what happened to him as a child when no one reached out a hand to help him. Tenko takes over the scene surrounded by hands, which is exactly what Deku is trying to reach. Deku's goal is to save the boy within Shigaraki and really understand why Shigaraki is the way he is. We then see All Might as a child doing his iconic laugh, with his mother standing behind him as they both do heroic poses, the same pose we see All Might do after defeating All For One in Kamino. And this is actually the first time we have seen All Might's mom in the anime. But the real important thing to note in this shot is the cherry blossom tree, which in Japan, cherry blossoms symbolizes new beginnings. And right after this, we see the beginning of everything. Yoichi and a covered in blood All For One as children reading the Captain Hero comic books as their adult selves stand next to each other. Yoichi being shown in the color blue and All For One in the color red, symbolizing their stance on good and evil and how the two viewed the comic book differently. Yoichi having been inspired to do good, while All For One was inspired to rule the world and make the world serve him, showing us exactly where it all started. Shirakumo shows up holding a cat, showing Shirakumo, Aizawa, and President Mike's friendship back in the day when they were students attending UA High School. I will say this is what really makes the Vigilantes prequel series so important other than Koichi's story, because that's exactly where we see Aizawa's backstory with Shirakumo and President Mike, something that we don't really get in the mainline series. After this, we see Kotaro holding a picture of him as a child happy with his mom Nana Shimura, as Nana Kana Shimura herself cries because of her guilt for abandoning her son in order to protect him from All for One, which turned him cruel towards his own kids when it came to them wanting to become heroes, in turn creating Shigaraki as the result of her actions. It's a very sins of the mother moment, as her actions to protect Kotaro negatively affected him, which caused his children and whole family to suffer the consequences for his actions, though we will learn more about the downfall of the Shimura family as the season goes on. Deku runs as we see all of the One for All vestiges turn towards him, with Yoichi reaching out his hand, letting Deku know that they are all in this together, as Deku himself reaches out his hand as well. Armored All Might and All for One go at it, as well as Deku and Shigaraki, but we then see Deku in his overlay form, or Carnage Deku, fighting Shigaraki in his final form near Mount Fuji, giving us a glimpse at their final battle. Now, I do have to get into some slight spoilers, nothing really too big, since the next shot in the opening shows all of the quirks within All for One being used, and at the top of that peak of those quirks is a shining light, that being Deku. We see all of the heroes standing there watching and reaching out their hands towards the light shining off of Deku, which this is actually a reference to the first opening where Deku was the one reaching out towards the light shining off of All Might, though this time the heroes are reaching towards the light shining off of Deku, as he is now the new symbol of hope that has inspired the heroes to take action in this final battle. We then see Deku and Shigaraki continuing their fight in their final forms, as we hear the lyrics "a move divine," or depending on the translation, "a sacred move," and "silent voice." And this is where we get into actual spoilers, as these specific lyrics mean something a lot more than what is shown in the opening. Timestamps are in the description if you want to skip this portion of the video. But as I was saying, these lyrics are of course referring to Deku sacrificing One for All, using the sacred move or divine move of forcibly transferring pieces of One for All to Shigaraki in order to reach out to him, which is exactly what we see Deku doing in this section of the opening, reaching out to Shigaraki. The silent voices being the vestiges of One for All, who will be transferred one by one to help Deku reach his goal of saving Shigaraki, who earlier in the opening reached out their hands to Deku for this exact reason. The last lyric we hear are the words "the day has come," now signifying the end of Deku's journey, the day to show the world that he is here, to fully embrace and embody his role as the new symbol and be the hero he is meant to be, as we see Deku and Shigaraki from different points in their lives reaching out to each other, ending with Tenko and Kid Deku both crying as they almost reach one another. Surprisingly, when going through all of the different Dekus, they actually show Deku in the men's non-no brand Series 5 All Might t-shirt, which is the last thing we see Deku wear in the final battle. And on the Shigaraki side of things, we don't see the suit he wore when fighting Stars and Stripes, because that really wasn't Shigaraki in that moment when he wore that suit, meaning that all of the Shigarakis we see here are meant to be Shigaraki and Tenko when he is in control of his body, and not any of the times All for One or the combination of the two was in control of his body. Deku's mom, along with a bunch of people, are cheering for him. A shirtless guy who was actually the original owner of that All Might t-shirt we see Deku in earlier, Ochako shedding a tear having survived her encounter with Toga, and Tokoyami and Hawks watching the news on a phone. All of these scenes are actually taken straight from the anime, as these all happen at somewhat different points during the final battle, which also explains why Ochako isn't in the shot where all of Class 1A and the other heroes are reaching towards Deku's light, because she's recovering from her wounds after her battle with Toga. The opening then ends with that light from Deku shining bright in the sky, as we see the silhouettes of people looking up at the light, two of them specifically being Eri and Koda, as this symbolizes versus Deku, and One for All's light being what will bring everyone together. Now, that was the complete breakdown of the final opening for My Hero Academia. Not only is the REVO a banger and already on repeat in my playlist, but I absolutely love how the song embodies the theme of hope. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the final opening for the final season of My Hero Academia. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button, and if you are new to the Kitoroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia final season breakdowns.